All right, Mel Robbins, welcome to Meet the Press.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Thank you for being here. We're really honored, and we're looking forward to this discussion. You have really started, in some ways, a movement with your Let Them theory. You have an entire book, which I've read. I absolutely found so much inspiration from. Mel, most people are familiar with the Let Them theory, but for the folks who aren't,
Yep.
how would you, in the most simple terms, describe what the Let Them theory is?
The Let Them theory is very simple. If you stop trying to control and change other people suddenly, you have more time, energy, and power in your own life to focus on yourself and improving it. That's it. That releasing control gives you so much control and peace back.
It's not let it go, because you follow Let Them with Let Me.
Yes.
Why is that an important component?
Yeah, so there's two parts to the theory. The first one is Let Them, and that's the part everybody loves, because right now, life is so overwhelming. And let's face it, other people are super annoying. They're very frustrating. You can go through your day and from traffic and you're gripping the wheel, or people walking slow or talking close, or the meetings that are scheduled at 6 o'clock on a Friday, the guilt trips, like it is going to drain all of your energy. And other people are the number one cause of stress in your life. But here's what the Let Them theory taught me. They don't have to be. See, you get to decide how much somebody else affects you. You get to decide how much brain space they take. You get to decide whether traffic or inconsiderate behavior or the headlines stress you out. And so Let Them is where you recognize, and it's so simple, you don't even have to read the book. You can start using it after our conversation. The moment you're stressed out or frustrated or whatever, you just say Let Them. And you'll notice you're always stressed by other people. And the second you say Let Them, you recognize, okay, I can't control this person, so why am I going to let it bother me? And then you say, Let Me. And Let Me is where you take your power back and you remind yourself. And this is a very old idea. The Let Them theory is a modern take on ancient wisdom. And so when you say Let Me, you are reminding yourself that your power is not in trying to change other people. Your power is in changing your response to other people and to the situations that are going on around you that are upsetting you.
Well, your book is having a huge impact, and your Let Them philosophy, it's the #1 best-selling book. You've sold more than 6.5 million copies. Oprah calls it her favorite self-help book.
Yep.
Why has the Let Them theory resonated with so many people?
Well, #1, I think there's 4 main reasons. #1, it addresses the single biggest cause of stress in your life right now. And any psychologist will tell you that if you try to control something that's out of your control, it's just going to create stress for you. And so when you use it, it teaches you that other people are just living their lives. They're doing what they're doing. They think what they think. They believe what they believe. They act how they act. They change or they don't change when they want to change. And when you let them, you protect yourself from all the unnecessary stress that you're causing for yourself because you want to change other people. You wish they were different. So you say, Let Them, and all of a sudden it's like the release of control floods you with clarity and peace. So that's #1, that it addresses the #1 cause of stress that everybody's feeling. #2, it's a simple tool. It's a simple tool that works. And that means that as you're reading the book and you're starting to feel less stress and you're starting to recognize, wow, I can't change other people. I got to learn to accept them as they are and focus on myself. People are like, my mother needs this. My sister needs this. Oh my gosh, my boss needs this. And so people are talking about it and sharing it with one another because it's simple and it works. It's a tool. Like the third reason is because the Let Them theory is new, but it is part of a legacy of ancient wisdom. So if you love Stoicism, that's the Let Them theory. If you love Buddhism, that's the Let Them theory. If you love the Serenity Prayer, that's the Let Them theory. And so as you're reading it and you're like, wow, this sounds like detachment theory and radical acceptance, you're right. If it sounds like something that your grandmother used to say, you're right.
Well, that's what is I found to be really educational about the book. You're
Yep.
not just saying let them, you have grounded this in a lot of research, Mel.
Yes.
How important was that to you?
Well, it's incredibly important because I think it's very easy to overcomplicate things. It's very difficult to make something simple, okay? And so when you finally get down to a simple idea, which is when you say let them, you're detaching from things you can't control, and it's like a boundary between you and the world. And it's how you protect yourself. And then when you say let me, you are using a second tool, and you are applying stoicism, and you're basically saying, let me focus on what I can control. And the only thing in life that you can control, as scary as this sounds, is yourself. What you think, what you do or don't do in response, and how you react to the emotions. And so one of the reasons why people love this is because it's familiar and because it works with the fundamental laws of human nature and relationships. But what people get wrong about this is that everybody loves let them, and everybody's tattooing let them on them because, again, life is stressful. Yeah. And there is so much right now. I mean, you know this better than anybody because you're the one reporting on all of it. There are so many things that are out of your control. It is easy to feel overwhelmed. It is easy to feel tired. It is easy to be drained by the stress of life and all the uncertainty out there, whether it's AI or it's the headlines or it's, people not able to even have conversations about policy anymore. That's all true. But when you allow outside forces to drain your time and energy, you miss a fundamental truth about life. You have so much power, and we need you. And if you allow all this stuff to drain you, then you will not be part of making your life better. You will not be part of the solution. You will not see opportunities to improve yourself, improve your family, to get re-engaged in your community. You have so much more power, but we tend to not see it because we're giving it away to all this other stuff.
Well, one of the aspects of this book that I find to be so effective is how deeply honest you are. You're not just writing a book with advice. You actually talk about how you have struggled through a lot of different things. You talk about how you wish some of your responses to your kids were different, your friends, your husband. Was it hard for you to be that painfully honest in this book?
You know what's funny is I am the villain in the book, and I'm about to turn 57. I didn't discover this until I was 54. And I feel like I lived my life backwards. I feel like I spent my whole life navigating every decision based on people's moods or what was going to make somebody happy or somebody's expectations. I chronically worried about what other people were thinking. And when I started writing this book and building the case for this, it was astonishing to me how simple life can be if you learn that other people, just let them be who they are. Let them be who they're not. Stop judging, controlling, and changing, and just learn to accept people as they are, and then focus your time and energy on yourself. And life has a funny way. When you put your time and energy into living your life in a way where you're proud of yourself, you don't think a lot about other people. When you learn how to accept your mother as she is and as she's not, you create more connection and love because you're not judging somebody anymore. You're actually creating the conditions for a really authentic connection.
Well, and you take me to my next question, because one of the most emotional parts of the book is when you talk about the acceptance that you find for your mom, who wasn't originally supportive of the person you chose to marry, not because she didn't like him or love him, but she was afraid of losing you.
Of course.
And you grew up in Michigan.
Yes.
How did that condition you to do what you are doing now?
Well, so I think being from the Midwest and having two working parents and having parents that were very much in deep with family and had values around service, I would go to the farmer's market with my mother, and she knew every single person by name. She knew the name of their dog. She knew their kids. Like, as a little kid, it would drive me crazy because she would be standing there. We need to buy some peaches or some sugar snap peas or whatever. And we're having a 12-minute conversation with Larry. And, I'm like an 8-year-old, like, can we go? And what it showed, and my dad was an orthopedic surgeon. And he would volunteer on Thursdays in a rural hospital, and our kitchen was like the local kind of minute clinic. We didn't have those back then in the late 70s and early 80s. And so I saw, modeled by my parents, this desire to be interested in people and of service. And they treated everybody that we would bump into, whether you were buying corn from a local farmer, or you were volunteering for the Service League organization, or you were walking through the halls of a hospital or a school, I saw my parents treat everybody equally. I saw my dad volunteering for the Farm League hockey team at MC Walker Arena, and he'd be, the hometown doc for, the team that was the Farm League for the Pittsburgh Penguins. And so I just had this imprint that people matter, that everybody can teach you something, that a life well lived is one that is lived doing something that creates meaning. And I just carried that with me.
And as you very openly discuss, there were a lot of twists and turns in your journey. And you talk about the fact that you were a lawyer. You were a radio talk show host for a period of time. And then in 2009, 41 years old, you say you hit rock bottom.
Yes.
You were out of a job. Your husband was struggling as well professionally. You very candidly discussed the fact that you think you were drinking too much.
Oh, 100%.
During this period. What was that moment like, and why was it so pivotal for you?
So we were $800,000 in debt. That doesn't happen by accident, right? You want to kind of, when your life starts falling apart, there are times when your life falls apart and it's not your fault. In my case, I was largely responsible for it. And if I were to ask you, could you think of 10 things that you could do today that would really make your life worse? You'd say, yes, I can. Which also means you could think of 10 things that you could do today that could make it better. And I think that's an important thing. What happened to me is that when my husband's restaurant business started to go under, and it took our life savings, liens hit the house, we've got 3 kids under the age of 10, I lose my job. I had never envisioned a life where I would face bankruptcy, I would be an alcoholic, I would be on the verge of divorce, that I would be losing everything that I cared about. And what's interesting about rock bottom moments is you hit something solid inside you. That's how you know it's bottom. And what you hit is the resolve to change. See, you can either wait for things to get worse before they get better, or you wake up one day and say, I don't want this to get worse. Nobody's coming. And if this is going to change, I have to take responsibility for changing it myself. And so what that moment taught me, because the simplest things were so hard. Getting out of bed, the bills, I hadn't opened my bills in 6 months. I hadn't asked out for help. I hadn't stopped drinking. I hadn't looked for a job. I would wake up every morning and lay in bed like a human pot roast, feeling sorry for myself, staring at the ceiling, going, I hate my life, I hate my husband, I hate myself. And it felt easier to just avoid the things that I knew I needed to do. And I think this is one of the core things that I try to teach, which is you already know what you need to do. And if you don't, go to AI and just put in your problem. It'll give you 10 things to do. The problem's going to be that you're going to wait to feel ready. And I got news for you. Motivation is garbage. It's never there when you need it. You have to teach yourself this life-changing skill. And here's the life-changing skill. You have to train yourself to do things that you don't feel like doing. And for me, that started with teaching myself to get out of bed on those mornings that I didn't want to.
With the 5-second rule.
Yes.
This was transformative for you.
So,
what is it? How does it work? It's very simple. I think about some of the songs I sing with my daughter. Counting down from 5. But this was transformative for you.
So I was watching TV and I saw this rocket ship launch across the TV screen, and it gave me this, at the time, stupid idea. Okay, I know what I'm going to do. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to launch myself out of bed like a rocket. And my thinking was, I'll move fast enough so I won't be in the bed when the anxiety and the depression and the overwhelm pins me there. And the very next morning, the alarm rang, and I'm going to show you something. In life, there is a 5-second moment that defines your whole life. It's this moment between inspiration and discouragement, confidence and self-doubt, courage and fear. Have you ever noticed that you can know what you need to do, but then you make a fatal mistake and you stop and you hesitate and you think about how you feel about it? And within 5 seconds of thinking about something, you no longer do it. Psychologists have lots of fancy terms for this, like a bias toward thinking, a bias towards action. All I knew is that I was stuck in this habit of hesitating. And that morning, for whatever reason, as the alarm went off, I remembered the dumb rocket launch idea, and I started thinking, I don't want to. This was a Tuesday morning in February 2008. How is this going to help? I hate my husband. And I started reaching for the snooze button, something I had done for 6 months in a row. I'd hit that sucker 4 or 5 times a morning. Kids would miss the bus. They'd be waking me up. That's how you know you're failing at parenting, when your kids are waking you up after they miss the bus.
Wow.
But for whatever reason, I just started counting backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I stood up, and it worked. And, you know, what's interesting is it felt like a victory. And it was. It was the first time in 6 months that the procrastination, the anxiety, the fear, the shame didn't win. I did. The better part of me, the knowing part of me did. And this is the important thing. Fear kills action, but action kills fear. And you got to stop sitting around waiting to be ready, and you got to teach yourself to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. Do the thing. Because that's the only way you change your life. You don't do it by thinking about it.
I would imagine that drinking makes it that much harder
of course.
to employ the 5-second rule. Can you talk to people about that? And what is your relationship with alcohol now? Can you enjoy a drink casually?
Yeah. So I can enjoy a drink casually. As I've hit menopause, I now understand like how it's a really bad thing to do. And as I get older and prioritize sleep, I also understand how devastating it can be for sleeping and for waking up. Here's what I didn't know then. The number one symptom of a hangover is anxiety. And the reason why is when you pour all this essentially like poison into your body and then you fall asleep, your body has to process it. Now, when you wake up, women in particular naturally have higher levels of cortisol, the stress hormone in your body. And if you've also been processing alcohol and then that drops all kinds of has all kinds of chemical effects on you, your cortisol is going to be higher. And so I was also basically, you know, screwing myself over because I didn't know any of this. So a lot of the anxiety, yes, it was situational because we had a lot of problems, but problems you could solve. But you don't solve them by thinking about them. You solve them by facing them. But when I would wake up hungover, the anxiety was spiking not just because of the situation, it was also spiking because I was hungover. And so one of the things that's exciting about the 5-second rule, researchers call it a starting ritual. If you want to change a habit, you don't technically break it. You have to interrupt it, and that's what counting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 does. So let's say that you have trouble getting outside and taking a walk every day. When that impulse hits, like you're physically capable of doing it, just count backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then start moving. Because then you've interrupted the pattern of just thinking about it and sitting there and having the moment pass. And then you're replacing the procrastination with a different response, which is moving.
And Mel, did you ever feel like just giving up? Did you ever think
every day?
Every day.
I counted 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 like a nutcase. Like I was counting 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pick up the phone and look for a job. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't like people. I don't want to talk to people on the phone. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you have a cold calling job, this will 10x your income. If you are a person who knows you need to take better care of yourself, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 helps you as a tool push yourself through your excuses. You know, we had Dr. David Rossmarin, Harvard Medical School professor. He runs the Centers for Anxiety around the world. He was on the Mel Robbins podcast, and I asked him, tell me about anxiety. Because when you're anxious about something, it's a moment where you are doubting something hasn't happened yet. The day at work, the conversation with your person, and you're worried about what's going to happen and you're doubting yourself. Like, what should you do in that moment? And he's like, well, have you ever heard of the 5-second rule? And I was like, oh, don't play me. And he's like, no, 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 Mel. The biggest problem with anxiety is when you feel anxious, you avoid the thing. And when you avoid something, you signal to you're telling yourself, I'm not capable of handling this, which makes you more anxious. Every single medical professional in that field will tell you that you have to get people to do the things that they're scared of. I didn't know this. And so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 is used in clinical settings. It is unbelievably effective with addiction because you have to do pattern interruption. And a lot of what I talk about is, I'm a very smart person, but I get caught up in my head. I get stressed out just like everybody else. And knowledge doesn't help you if you can't remember it or you can't apply it. And so in those moments where you're procrastinating or you're full of self-doubt or you're feeling anxious, kind of going up in your head and going, okay, wait, what was that thing that just keeps me stuck. And so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 applies everything as a tool to get you moving. And to me, what's exciting about whether you're using Let Them and Let Me, or you're using 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or any of the things that I talk about on social media or I share on the Mel Robbins podcast, what's exciting is that you are so much more powerful than you think. You have so much capacity to change your life for the better. And yet we get so discouraged. And so if I can, through my bad stories, because I'm the villain in that book, like you'll either see yourself at
You're
your
an
worst
enjoyable
moments.
character in the book. I have to say, I don't know that I would describe you as a villain. You're someone who I think a lot of people relate to.
Well, because we're all jealous. We all worry about what other people think. We all get pissed off at our friends and our parents for stupid things. We all get our feelings hurt. That's normal. That's normal. But I'm here to tell you, you don't have to let it run your life. Other people don't have to be a problem. I realize we all have families because it teaches you how to love people you hate at times. It really does. Like, that's why we have families. And because two things can be true at once. You can deeply love somebody and not understand how they have an opinion that offends you. And you can love somebody and their behavior in the morning, I'm talking about my husband right now, can really irritate you, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And there's a different way to go through life that's more loving of other people and that works with the research and science. And the science is important. I realize I'm now finally answering your question because this. If you just hear 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But if you hear all the research and you know that we know of more than 1,000 people who have taken the time to write to us who have stopped themselves from attempting suicide by counting backwards and asking for help. We hear from addiction specialists, medical professionals, licensed clinical psychologists every single day about the fact that they're using the let them theory and the 5-second rule in their medical practices. Why? Because these are tools that help you access the deeper research and training that so many professionals are trying to educate us about, but in a moment where you're just overwhelmed with shame, or life is just too much. Life is a lot right now. And what my message is that for all the things that are scaring you and that you're overwhelmed by, that's a very valid emotion, and it tells me that you care deeply. But you have to say let them, because the thing has already happened. The stuff is going on. The person is who they are. Stop expecting other people to change, because people only change when they're ready to change for themselves. And the amount of stress you're creating for yourself and the amount of tension that you put in your relationships because you want people to be different, when you start saying let them, it floods you with clarity and peace. It creates this acceptance of who somebody is and who they aren't. And then when you say let me, this is the most important part. Don't you dare ever believe that you're not able to change things for the better. Like, I don't think change comes from the top. Change comes from within each and every one of us. Change starts in a living room. Change starts at a dining room table. Change starts in terms of how you manage your stress and how you align the way that you show up in life. This is the let me part. Let me decide what deserves my time and energy. Let me, instead of giving all of my energy to these things that are overwhelming, let me get serious about the impact I want to make, because I can make an impact. Like if you think about any moment in history where there's been major positive social change, it always begins in somebody's living room, or in somebody's community, or in somebody's Boy Scout troop, or in somebody's church or synagogue or mosque, or in some volunteer group. It starts with us.
You talk about your podcast, and
Yes.
it's one of the most listened to podcasts
Yeah.
in the country. Time
world.
Magazine, the world.
I'm going to claim that.
Yeah, in the world. Time Magazine said about you, quote, "What Robin sells is not just advice. She's offering her listeners a reason to believe in themselves." Is that how you see your work and what you're doing?
Yeah, like I think that the thing that stands in people's way is discouragement. This sense that it's hopeless. This sense that there's nothing I can do. That is a lie that you have either been sold or that you're telling yourself. And if you have all the information, like again, if you can create a list today of all the things you could do to ruin your life, you can create a list of all the simple things you could do to improve it.
It's emotional for you. This is personal for you.
Yes, it's very personal for me because I see it. We have anywhere between 9 and 11 million people that listen to this show every week. People have spent 38.5 million hours watching the Mel Robbins podcast on YouTube. That is the equivalent of watching my show for 4,087 years straight.
Wow.
And we are at a moment in time where people do not have time for themselves. So I do not take it lightly that teachers and nurses and EMTs and, are finding time to listen to something that reminds you of what matters to you, that reminds you that you do have power, that reminds you that your relationships and being a good friend are important. And that matters.
When you have such a big impact, you have the people who support you, you have your critics as well. Some people say this advice is simplistic. Psychologist Jim Taylor told the Wall Street Journal, quote, "You wouldn't go to a surgeon who never went to medical school." How do you respond to that?
Let him. He's right. I wouldn't go to a surgeon that way. I don't take private clients. I'm not a therapist.
Really? You don't ever take private
Absolutely
clients?
not. Absolutely not.
Interesting.
I'm sharing my story, and I'm trying my best to distill the most complicated, amazing, exquisite research, the takeaways from the best minds on the planet, and make them something that any person can share with somebody else at a kitchen table. Make it something that's relevant to a busy parent, because advice and information, it's useless if you can't apply it to your life. And I would way rather be useful to somebody than smarter than them. And so, anybody that criticizes me for being simplistic, let them. Because it's so easy to overcomplicate life. It's very difficult to make it simple.
Is that part of the strength, do you think, in your message, that it is easy for people to remember?
Yes.
They're not grasping
That's
for
100% it. Because, it's life is complicated enough. And I also understand the research that if you're stressed out, your amygdala, which is, this little part of your brain right here that gets you all freaked out about things, it's running the show. The research is very clear. Dr. Aditi Nurakar, who is one of the 57 experts that are cited in this book, there's an 18-page bibliography. The science matters because if the advice sounds simple, you roll your eyes at it, right? Oh, it can't possibly work if it's that obvious. Well, it's only obvious now because I've proved it. It's only obvious now because the second you say, let me, you remind yourself, wait, I do have choices and options. Let me is how you take responsibility for your life. And let's look at the word responsibility. It's the ability to respond. And that's stoicism. That's Buddhism. That's Viktor Frankl's seminal work, Man's Search for Meaning. That power is not in what's happening out there. Individual power is in focusing on your response to what's happening out there. You don't change other people by trying to change them. You change other people in the world around you by changing yourself.
And I know we're almost out of time. I just have a few more questions. Sure. You have spoken very honestly about the fact that you've struggled with anxiety, ADHD, dyslexia.
Yep.
You got those diagnoses, ADHD and dyslexia, later in life in your 40s. Was that a relief? Was it a surprise?
Oh my God! Did
you welcome the diagnosis? Did everything click?
Well, first of all, it was a casserole of emotions because I was diagnosed at the age of 47 the way the majority of women are, because our kids are going through the process of a neuropsych exam because they've been labeled a problem at school, and you're like, no, I think something else is going on. So then they get evaluated, and suddenly my son's got like dyslexia and ADHD, and I say to his pediatrician, Mark, that sounds an awful lot like me. Do you think I might have that? He's like, Mel, you're the most ADHD parent I know. I was like, why didn't you tell me? He's like, I'm not your doctor, Mel. So it was this revelation that I'm not crazy, number one. And then when I dug into it, and this is why I talk about this so much, there's a massive generation of women, they're called the lost generation, where because they only studied boys in the 1970s, the diagnosis was about the symptoms that boys experience. Girls experience ADHD at the same rates as boys. We have different symptoms. We're quieter, we go internal, we start doubting ourselves. And so what happens if you are not diagnosed properly with language-based learning, executive functioning, any type of attention issue, the primary symptom that develops if you have to sit in a classroom all day where your brain doesn't operate the way everybody else's does is anxiety. So you have God knows how many millions of women that took anti-anxiety medication. I was on Zoloft for 2 decades when the primary issue was dyslexia and ADHD. And so there was a part of me that was pissed, honestly, that I went through years and years and years, and so did so many other women, because we didn't study girls. And once I understood what I was dealing with, I started talking about it. And this is why I'm so open about everything. When you're quiet about it, you're reinforcing to yourself that there's something wrong with you. When you start talking to your friends or your family or looking online, you'll realize, oh, this thing that I'm dealing with or my kids are dealing with, like, not only am I not the only one, but there's things I can do. And when you understand the problem that you're dealing with has solutions, now you can do something.
You have also talked about your concerns about social media. You have more than 35 million followers, which is just remarkable.
I think so too. Well, you know, one of the best things about the success, it came late in life. When you have an experience in your 40s where you almost lose everything that matters to you, you don't forget that. I know what it feels like to have groceries scan, and I know that I don't have money. And I'm hoping there's some glitch in the check card, and somehow it's going to go through. And it doesn't. And you have to grab your 3 kids and walk out of there. That is a moment that you never forget. And so I am grateful that all of this happened later, because I have not forgotten what matters. And what matters to me is my family. What matters to me is my friendships. What matters to me is that I wake up every day and I'm proud of the person that I am, and I know that I'm doing the best that I can, and I'm fast to apologize when I screw things up. And my hope is that by sharing some of the things that I'm learning, sharing openly about the mistakes that I've made as a parent, as a spouse, as a human being, if I can save anybody else the headache and heartache that I caused myself and other people, because I just didn't know. I didn't know. I didn't know how to do better. Then that to me is a life well lived.
Who does Mel Robbins take advice from?
Everybody. I look at life as a long walk with friends. And there are moments when you're ahead of me a couple steps, and there are things that as we're on this walk that I can learn from you. Like everybody in this room that's running the cameras, I think Douglas, over there who mic'd me up, like there are things I can learn from him. And so if you take an approach that every single person has something to teach you, that we're all in this together, that we can learn from each other, then you're always a student, because life is the single greatest school you're ever going to attend.
If you could talk to the 41-year-old version of yourself laying in bed, filled with doubt and anxiety,
Yep.
what would you say to her?
Get out of bed. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're not solving your problems in there. Like, come on. You're better than this. Seriously. Stop licking. You've licked your wounds for long enough. There's a time for licking your wounds. There is a time to be down. There is a time to feel shame. There is a time, but at some point as a human being, you will understand that staying where you are is actually more painful than doing what you need to do. And I refuse to believe that you don't know one thing that you could do today that would make things a little better.
And Mel, finally, what is next for you? You've accomplished so much. Is there something that you have on the horizon that you can share?
No, I don't want to do more. I mean, I love the podcast. I'd love to make it better. I love, as a 56-year-old woman in Boston, not a media town, in Vermont, I'm freaking doing something that people care, that makes a difference for people. That is so cool. And I think you can drink your own Kool-Aid and think that you should always do more. What I would like more of is, I'd like more time hiking. I'd like more time with my husband. We celebrated 29 years of marriage. I'd like to stay married. I'd like to see my kids more. I feel like this obsession with making it bigger can make you miserable. And so I'd like to stay doing what I do and continue to find ways to do it better. And I'd like to use what I'm doing to bring more voices out to the world for free, so that people can bump into the right advice at the right time when they need it. And I love that what I'm doing is free, so you can share it with somebody. That's why I always say that moms and girlfriends are the gateway drug to the Mel Robbins podcast, because if somebody's sharing an episode with you, it's because they love you. And
one of my girlfriends shared your episodes with me, yes.
Yeah, that's
and
why
your posts.
Yes, and it's not just women. The secret thing is that half the audience is guys, because we are sharing this, and then all of a sudden you listen and you're like, well, this is hilarious, and it's super interesting, and it's useful. Now I'm going to share it with somebody else, because we talk about the things that impact all of us.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app, or watch live on our YouTube channel.